Morning, y'all. Waking up in humid and kind of cloudy Canada land this morning. So I'm getting ready to go on an awesome photo shoot. I'm super excited. They're some friends of mine that I've met over the years at antique shows at Simple Goods. That's Bill and Sandy Lockie, and they're great collectors and super fun, and it's just going to be a great day. So I had a couple minutes before I needed to leave, and I just have to share a story with y'all that I hope you appreciate. I actually had to put my Canadian trip off a day, which I apologize to Bill and Sandy for that. I never like to put my homeowners off after they've worked so hard to get ready for me to come. But last Saturday I went to do barn chores, and I went to feed some yearlings that we have, yearling calves in a pasture, and as soon as I got there I knew something was wrong, because there's 6 in there and there were only 5 at the feed trough. So I ran down the hill, and I was just so upset. There was a heifer laying under a feeder, a big feed trough, and from far away I was just sure that she was dead. And I just raced down there, and we have these huge iron hay feeders. They're big and they're super heavy, and the calves lay under them because the hay falls through and it's on the ground. It makes a great bed, so they're always sleeping under there, and she must have been sleeping under there, and the other 4 or 5 rowdy little bull calves were probably playing and pushing, and I don't know how they could have ever pushed it over, but they pushed it over on top of her, and it was laying right on top of her neck. And I was just hysterical and sick, and it got worse because then I realized she was still alive. And I couldn't get it off her. There's just no way one person could lift it. So I ran back all the way up to my car and just was driving like 100 miles an hour on these crazy dirt roads trying to find somebody to come help me. And nobody's home, right? That's always how it is in a crisis. So and I don't know very many of my neighbors, I'm sorry to say, but I'm just never home. Todd knows them all, and they're awesome. So I finally got to my neighbor Kathy, bless her heart. She was just my saving grace that day. She came down with me, and I was hysterical and bawling my head off, and she tried to calm me down. And so we went, and I don't know, it was just adrenaline, supernatural strength that we got this thing lifted off this heifer, and she was still alive. So I called the vet, and they were on another emergency call, and I had to wait 2 hours, and just that whole time I was just pacing and praying and praying and praying and praying. And at that point I should have put a lot more faith in my prayer, but the human side of us takes over, and I shouldn't say we, me, I fail in that regard, and just think the worst. But I even laid hands on her and prayed over her, and at that point I should have just left it to God, but I kept wanting to take control of the situation. So the vet comes, and you know, at that point it's just really hard to tell what the situation is, if she had a broken neck or what, but she was able to bend all 4 legs, and gave her a lot of drugs, you know, some steroids and tons of pain medicine and anti-inflammatories, and said, you know, really all we can do right now is wait, but she really needs to be propped up on her sternum, because if a calf lays on their side for long periods of time, then they can't belch, so to speak, so they bloat in their stomach, and that was another big concern. So we pull her up and prop her up between 2 hay bales so that at least she's laying on her stomach, and I just stayed with her as long as I could. I checked on her every hour that night. It was just really trying. And anyway, so the next morning the vet comes back and gives her drugs again, and said, you know, we're gonna have to later today, if you can get your neighbor to come. We've had to do this before in Texas. If a cow gets down for very long, they just don't have a good chance of ever recovering. So we put bands, like wide webbing bands, under their stomach, and then attach them to the forks on the front of our tractor. And then you can lift them up. It's like a sling. Lift them up with our tractor so that it takes the weight off their legs and gets some blood flow down there. And So she said, let's try that this afternoon, and if she doesn't show a lot of try, you know, you might have to really start considering putting her to sleep. So my wonderful neighbor Larry came, and his son-in-law Michael, and helped me do that. And let me back up that after the vet left, she actually showed some try. Like, I was just sitting there with her, and she lurched forward, kind of like she was trying to get up. She couldn't get up on her own, but at least she tried, and that kept giving me hope. It was like every little bit you'd get a little bit of hope, and then take 3 steps back, and then a little hope and 3 steps back. And so that afternoon we tried lifting her, and that was another traumatic experience for me. And anyway, this is a long story. I'll try to shorten it up here. I had everyone praying for her, and of course I called my biggest prayer warrior, Cheryl, and Cheryl just kept confirming to me that it was going to be okay, and Cheryl named her Miracle. And so, you know, in the darkest times, and it doesn't look good, is when we need to really lean on our faith. And I tried, and then I'd take it back, and I'd give it to him, and I'd take it back. So canceled my photo shoot and put it off a day. And yesterday morning I had to get up here, and so Todd finally came home. He was obviously gone through this whole ordeal. He had been in Canada, and he got home at 5 o'clock in the morning, and yesterday morning we went down there and just decided this is it. She either has to get up or she's not gonna. And it's painful to try to make them when you know they're in a lot of pain, but if you can ever get a calf up and they can't stay up on their own, if you hold their tail up, that's how they balance, and you can hold them up by their tail, so to speak. And so we did that, and she was real wobbly at first and tried to fall down and act like she was having a seizure, but over time she just kept getting stronger and stronger, and pretty soon she was walking around to the point that Todd had to let go because she was going so fast. It was just really, it was an amazing, wonderful, glorious thank you Jesus moment. And so at that point we were at least able to get her up in the barn so she wasn't in the sun. And by last night, you know, she was kind of going backwards again. She couldn't get up. She couldn't ever get up on her own. Like, once we got her up, we could help her stay up, but she couldn't go from a sitting position to standing by any means. And in fact, she couldn't even go from a laying on her side position to sitting up on her sternum and on her tummy. We always had to get her up. And I just have to tell you that this morning Todd texted me that when he got to the barn, he was like at the lowest of the low. You know, he was feeling what I had been feeling the last couple days. And when he opened the barn door, Miracle was standing up all on her own. So anyway, the whole point to this video is just, I have to say, God gets all the glory. And I thank you for my prayer warriors. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that we serve an incredible God that can work miracles. And if he can raise Jesus from the dead, and Jesus can raise Lazarus from the dead, just think what they can do for my little miracle calf. So I'm just so grateful and happy today, and I'm looking forward to a beautiful photo shoot in Canada. And I just pray that y'all have as much of a blessed day and a wonderful day as I've started my day with. And I just thank you for always being with me on my travels and always praying for me for safe travels. And I just love y'all, and I thank you. See ya.